Hello and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that helps you look your best in 2025. I am your host, Patrick Kaiser. March is here and I, for one, cannot wait for the spring weather. February to me has just seemed so long and dreary. I very much anticipate the tulip blooms with each passing day. March also brings about the annual March Madness basketball tournament, and this year, Heart on Main Street is celebrating with our own Main Street Madness fundraising challenge. We're looking for a handful of retailers to serve as team captains to help raise money for Heart on Main Street. A team captain will be given a unique fundraising link and then encouraged to share it however they see fit in order to get others to follow the link and donate. You can put it on social media, you can send it out in emails, you can put a QR code on a shirt or paste it to your forehead. It doesn't matter. There will be several rounds of fundraising that teams that raise the most money through their link will then move on to the next round. Prizes will be given after each round for those that raised the most money or had the most donors contribute. The eventual winner will be given a grand prize of a cash award as well as some other goodies that we've collected. The money raised will then go to helping an independent retailer who's been affected by a natural disaster within the winner's kind of relative region. So you can win prizes, you can win money, and you can be able to help out your community. Spots are limited and are filling up, so if you want to be a team captain, please email us at contact@heartonmainstreet.org. Really hope you've enjoyed the last 2 episodes of this podcast where I've talked about my learnings from Main Street Mondays and what I have seen successful Main Streets do in order to help themselves grow. I've received a good amount of feedback on these, which I absolutely love. I love hearing about the things that you are doing to help your communities grow and have it be more successful, so please keep your comments coming. If nothing else, this space is a conduit for me to share your stories and successes so that others can learn and grow. I've spent essentially all of my professional career as an educator and a trainer, and one of my favorite sayings in those environments is that the genius is in the room. I am just a mere facilitator of conversation. It is from those that are in the room who share with each other and learn from each other and are open to experiencing new things and doing something different that the genius emerges. So if you have additional stories or insights that you'd like to share for the benefit of others, please, again, email contact@heartonmainstreet.org. When I have a good amount of these, I will read them all for us to be able to learn from and help us grow and help our Main Street areas. Today's episode is a recent conversation that I had with Lynn Falk and Suzanne Rothenstein of Retailworks, Inc. Retailworks, Inc. is a Milwaukee-based interior design, visual merchandising, window display company that has helped hundreds of retailers all across the United States and Canada over the past 30 years to create displays and merchandising and imagery that people really connect with. I have worked with Lynn and Suzanne several times over the past couple years, and I'm always blown away by the knowledge that they bring to our conversations. In this conversation, we talked about visual merchandising techniques that can help your store stand out. This was a recorded conversation and they did have some visuals, so if you'd prefer to watch this instead of listen, you can find the full recording either on our website, heartonmainstreet.org, or through our YouTube page, Heart on Main Street. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Lynn Falk and Suzanne Rothenstein of Retailworks, Inc. So today we're going to be talking about really a wide variety of different elements concerning visual merchandising and store design. We'll also be talking about how to make a great impact on your store with a tighter budget, because we all know people are focused on that, especially right now. So how can we do more without breaking the bank? We're going to be talking about consumer behavior in psychology, because I know Lynn and Suzanne love that, and that's really something that separates you all apart from others. And then we'll close out by talking about the future and looking at fads and trends and different learnings from the larger retail landscape that retailers can bring into their stores to make it more fresh and inviting for customers. So, sound good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So we're going to start off with a big question. If you're able to tell a retailer one thing, to help create a better customer experience or work on their store layout, what would be one thing that you would really focus for a retailer to focus on?
And that's the $1 million question.
That's a $1 million question.
My answer right away would be lighting.
Okay.
And Suzanne may have another answer, but lighting makes or breaks the design. So, and anything you're doing, any merchandising, displays, you name it, if you don't have the right lighting, that's the first place I would look to invest dollars. And I would say that a little over half of the retail environments that Suzanne and I visit or work with do not have the right type or adequate lighting. So we're always looking, and it can be as simple as changing out literally a light bulb to a higher lumen output light bulb in a track head. That's the simplest way to repair most lighting problems. To take just a typical light bulb that you might buy at Home Depot that really isn't doing anything for your merchandising and illuminating the store the way it should, and changing it out to what we call a par 30 or par 38. In fact, while Suzanne's going to answer that question too, I've got a sample I can show you.
Perfect.
Well, I do agree with the lighting because not only is it very apparent when you see it, it also translates into increased sales. And we have many anecdotes working with small businesses that have actually changed out their lighting and made it so that the customers can actually see what is being shown in their store. And it is extremely important. And I do totally agree with lighting as being number one. I guess for me, for visual merchandising, is to have store owners walk around their store and kind of see if there's any like chaotic areas, things that are very mismatched, things that are messy, sloppy. Just like general cleanup and organizing is very, very important. And then coming into this as a small business owner, I owned my own store for 20 years and I worked in retail for decades. And there's a personal touch that small business owners, owner-operated businesses can have to make them stand apart from big box stores or multiple store locations, is to actually get out from behind the desk and engage with customers. You just to make them feel welcome into the space and at home. You don't have to talk about what you're selling all the time. Just having a conversation puts a memorable idea into the heads of people who are visiting you. And maybe they won't buy something that day, but they'll remember you and then come back. But I was engaging with customers and having conversations was really, really important and key in my store when I was working.
And that's a really good point, because sometimes the personality of the owner or the manager, the kind of boots on the ground people, can actually take attention away from some of the visual sins that can be going on in a store.
You overlook it because you like them.
What?
You overlook those things because you like the people.
Yes. You're so engaged with the conversation and you just love that owner so much. You want to support them. Yeah. So here's a par 30. It's like the baby version.
Oh
no.
We lost line. I'll just say the baby version is the par 30 and the big kid version is the par 38. Both of them are floodlights, and then they would give varying degrees of illumination. There's technical bits of it that Lynn can explain more as to like the lumen output. However, when these are focused and presented on merchandise, especially if you have a lot of small merchandise grouped together, it illuminates it in a much clearer way than any light bulb that you could buy at Home Depot. It's just sharper, crisper, and sometimes you have to see it to believe it, but we probably have testimonials from people who have just tried out the different lights. And we're sad when people have to invest in light bulbs when they say that they did get them at like a big hardware store. And those are perfectly fine for home, but it's not the same as a retail light. Especially if you have jewelry, that is a complete other animal. And that is very important to invest in the proper lamps or bulbs as we're commonly known.
So looks like Lynn is maybe joined again, but besides a hardware store, where are you finding these better lights for their store?
Yeah, and that's the tricky bit too, because fortunately, Lynn, who is a lighting guru, knows where to go. And we have started housing these bulbs here because we get so many requests, but we can certainly lead you into the right direction and to consult with you on the types of bulbs that you would probably need for specific heads. Now, some people might have track lighting where the light is actually integrated into the fixture, and those are a little bit trickier. Sometimes you would have to actually get a new head on your track for those. But if you have pendant lights, we've used these in dropped pendant lights before, and they're beautiful and work just marvelously.
Good.
So
what happened? How much did you hear of what I said?
Not a whole
dropped
lot.
off when you were showing the big and smalls. So pretty much
a whole beautiful lecture about how good these are. And I was saying, did you
I tried to fill in.
Did you talk about cost though?
No,
I didn't talk about cost. Yeah, you can do that. Yep.
Okay. So like if you go to Home Depot and you're paying $2.99 a bulb, that you're not getting any light out of those. This is about a $20 light bulb and this is about a $28 light bulb. However, these will each replace several of those Home Depot ones. And if you get the flood, you're going to be able to flood literally 5 to 6 feet on a wall or on your floor. These last 10,000 hours. They make your products look fabulous. We have seen sales increase when things are illuminated properly. Also, if you get a really high lumen output lamp, we call these lamps, but they're bulbs. If you can illuminate like your end caps, your focal point displays, your windows 3 times brighter than your surrounding ambient space, you will sell more. And the feet will follow the eyes, and the eyes always look for the brightest spot in the room. So these will pay for themselves instantly. And as Suzanne said, we do stock them in our office in Milwaukee because I used to give retailers cards that would say, this is what you have to look for. This is the Kelvin temp. This is the lumen output. This is the flood degree that you want. And people couldn't find them online. And it is tricky because manufacturers change. They're sometimes not, they don't have them in stock. So we've just started, when we find them, we bring them in-house. So if anyone, I'd be willing to send a sample out if anyone wants to try one of them. And I'm telling you, you won't believe the difference. So, okay, that's my little spiel on lighting.
Oh, I mean, lighting is so important, and I know you all talk a lot. And you had mentioned the lumen scale. What lumens should they be looking for if they were going to want to source their own?
Right. So lumen is the brightness that's basically a light bulb puts out. And if it's in track lighting and it's at about a 9-foot height off of the ground, you want minimum of 1100 lumens. If you're getting up to a 12-foot or higher ceiling, you're going to want to go with the par 38 and you're going to go with like 2200 lumens. So many of the Home Depot lights, not to keep picking on Home Depot, but just the cheap lights,
That's where
they're around 4 to 600 lumens, and that's nothing. You can't, and it's bad disbursement. These are more, if we can get the flood, you're going to get, like I said, 5 to 6 feet. And if you get that a minimum of 1100 up to 2200 lumens, it's going to make your whole selling environment just pop. Can't sell them enough.
Someone did have a question about, are they LED lights or not?
Yes, LED last 10,000 hours, and you want 3500 Kelvin temp, 3500 K. That's what it will often be. And it come like they come in 2,700, but that's like your like living room furniture store lighting. 3,500 to me is when products look their best. 4,000 is getting a little cool. And for diamonds, we're up at 5,500 Kelvin temp. So it's counterintuitive that when the temperature gets higher, it actually becomes a cooler, bluer light. When the temperature gets lower, it's a yellower, warmer light. And we have found 3,500 to be kind of the key Kelvin temp for most retail environments.
Okay. Shannon had a question about, was there a link that they can purchase? I don't know if either way you want to put contact information in the chat that that others can reach out to you for that. But
yes, I can put that in the chat.
And so, I love lighting. That is such an important thing. If you can't see the products, you're not seeing it in the best light, that right off the bat is going to change the experience that a customer is going to have within your store. And Suzanne, your point of walking the store, seeing where your pinch points, your clutter points are, actually getting out and walking the store like your customers, I think that is another just great recommendation that retailers should be doing frequently. You're exploring it. You have it in your own head how you envision it, but it might not be the same way that your retailers are experiencing your store. So
right. I was just going to say quickly, just on lighting, real quick. Lynn and I do a lot of these tech visits around Wisconsin and other states, and we'll go into small retailers and we'll look at the lighting. We're like, oh gosh, and Lynn is like, have you got a big ladder? And they'll pull out the big giant ladder, and she'll scurry up there and she'll flip out a light bulb. And generally the response is, oh wow, and oh my gosh, I never realized. And it's kind of, that is kind of like a little fun show and tell, but
yeah. And it is something that the Home Depot, not to pick on them, but those light bulbs, your mass source light bulbs are what most people are going to go with. And it just seems natural, but that might not be the best for your store environment.
Right. And I even say sometimes just do one department. If you do have a big store and you don't want to spend several $100s, just do one department and see how it works. In fact, one of Anita from Islander in Florida, in Fort Myers, she had to redo, and thankfully you had given her some money after the Ian hurricane. And she ended up putting all these in. She placed an order and then ordered another whole set because she said she couldn't find them anywhere. Her electrician was looking, none of them. I sent her some samples. She's like, oh my God, I'm ordering my entire store full of them.
Good. Well, I'm actually going to go visit her next month. Very excited to see her reopening her store. It's been open for a couple months now, but yes, very excited to see the brand new store there. So
yeah, great.
What are some other mistakes that you see retailers making? Lighting certainly seems like it's one. But what are some other just general mistakes that you notice as you walk through retail stores?
I think one of the things that, I'm not going to say it's like a mistake, but it would be more helpful if stores kind of realized what their departments were and they merchandise their goods by department. It makes it a little bit more easier to put groupings together. It makes it easier for display. Another problem that sometimes we see when we go into small stores is the inconsistencies of the fixtures themselves. A lot of times there are vendors that will offer, a free fixture if you buy enough merchandise to fill it. And that's nice because that's a freebie. But when it gets to a point where we have multiples of different vendor type fixtures all over the store, it's what I think looks like chaotic displays to me. And all I can see are the fixtures. I can't even see the product anymore. The fixtures should be very uniform, very consistent. They should almost blend away. The products are the star of the show, and the fixtures should just be there to house them. They should be sensible to like work with the merchandise that you have, but they shouldn't be their own attraction in themselves.
And I actually have a couple slides that relate to that, if I
Sure.
can share
Yeah.
quickly.
Love visuals.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what she's talking about, where there's really no categorizing or departmentalizing, and it's a lot of different types of fixtures. And it's somehow retailers can start out nice and clean and organized, and then all of a sudden, before they know it, they've added another fixture and then a vendor fixture, and then someone went out of business and they bought another fixture, and they think, so many retailers still think more is more, and that's not the case. We've been studying consumer behavior, kind of touch on one of the other topics today, for a long time, and the brain literally like shuts down when it sees something like this, because the left brain needs to interpret a space quickly. It needs to be able to say, really on a subconscious level, it's an immediate reaction, like, oh, I can shop this store. Oh, I get what they're selling. Oh, I can find what I need. I'll get to that department because I can easily get there, and I see that it's got a sign or whatever. But this is called just brain shutdown. It's too much going on. We see this a lot, where you can barely figure out how to get from point A to point B. And oftentimes the excuse is, well, we kind of overbought, or we haven't discounted some of the old stuff to get it out. Or, we just got a load in and we just put it out. And it's not about that. The brain needs to interpret where things are. So, and I think when, in the very beginning, Suzanne had answered that first question, what's most important? It's organizing, and like less is more, departmentalizing and cleaning. And sometimes we call it the subtraction method. We just come in, we just take things off the floor, which is sometimes much to the chagrin of the retailer, but we say, just try it. We have to reduce the amount of merchandise. We have to categorize things, clean it up, and all of a sudden sales go up. Customers come in, they can actually see what's there. Now, granted, there are some tourist shops that people do like to come in and spend some time, just milling about, especially in resale shops where they find the gem. But a lot of people don't have time to shop like that. These we call focal point displays. And these are places that the eye will rest and the feet will follow the eyes into the space. So anything that's interactive, anything that's easy to process, again, intellectually, and even showcases. These are 2 jewelry showcases. When you put backgrounds in, they become focal points from a distance. We are trying to get people to walk into a store, shop the entire store, and find different departments. It might be a vignette display on an area rug. Nordstrom's is known for this, but there are a lot of smaller merchants that are doing this. And it might be a video screen towards the back of the store that has some movement or a bright color. But you want to think organization, clean, easy to shop, less is more. Even like some decorative elements. The one on the left here is I can't see you. Can everyone hear me still before I go on and on?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Because I lost you last time. So these are live herbs in a restaurant, and the chef will come out and interact with the herbs and grab some for whatever he or she is making. And then on the right, this is an oversized fire hydrant with an embedded flat screen, and it's in the middle of the pet store. So these are like these fabulous focal point displays. Even a column can be a focal point display that people can shop all the way around. But leave some breathing room in between these focal point displays and the merchandising. I'm going to stop for a moment because this gets into the merchandising of the fixtures. So
I was going to say one more thing about fixtures is, sometimes when you have a small store and you're on a limited budget and there's only so much you can do. But I've gone into one of our clients when we first started working with them to redesign their space. And they had a lot of small products, a lot of different kinds of labels. And sometimes that alone can create a lot of chaos because we've got different images going on. But they were selling food products. And they had them on fixtures that were all different shapes, sizes, wood finishes, just kind of a hodgepodge mix. And I said, let's take all these wooden fixtures, paint them all black. And when we did that and came in and put the merchandise back on it, all of a sudden now you could see the actual merchandise. The fixtures were so, they weren't even secondary. They were tertiary. They were way, way, way down. But it really highlighted the merchandise, and it wasn't a visual chaotic mess with all different types of fixtures in it. But just by making them solitary in one way or another, by color with something.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy all new, just
making the
reinvent
product really be the star. Yeah, I think that's a huge, and you mentioned screens. I love when I see screens in retail stores. There's so many great things. First off, it's kind of like that, it attracts you to them. I think the lights, the changing, you just get naturally attracted to something with the screen, and then you can use it to display how a product might work or display advertisement for it. There's so many versatile things that you can do with the screen. So I just wanted to point out, I love when I see a good retail store using screens within their store.
Yes. Yeah. And even if they, just want to put their logo up in between some sort of promotion or vendor reel, it's just a nice placeholder even for the logo or, an upcoming message for a promotion.
Yeah, it's illuminated. You can see it from across the room. Yeah.
And movement always attracts attention.
Yep. Our caveman brain, we like fire. We like the colorful movement of things.
Yes. You want to talk merchandising of fixtures?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Like, how can retailers use merchandising to tell a story? We talked about kind of having different sections of your store, but how can it really be there to tell a story and allow that emotional connection for customers?
Okay. So, oops, that came up not as a slideshow, right? There we go. Whoop. And I just did want to point out, this is the very first slide. We'll talk about the merchandising in a minute, but this is how many focal point displays should be in a typical, let's say 1,200 square foot store. So wherever these red stars are, and it might start out with a little nesting table, but they get higher and higher, and then use your back walls or high counters as places to put displays. And then here's the flat screen in the back kind of lounge area. And even when someone's kind of is walking around or even exiting the store, they could still see some focal point displays before they exit. So these are really key things to keep in mind when you're putting your store together. And then some examples of focal point displays would be a nesting table, an end cap, maybe some pedestals that's, the products is well illuminated on those pedestals. Okay, then we went through these already. So this is merchandising and taking either the floor fixtures here on the right or the walls in both of these slides. They do tell a story by using elements and principles of design and the theme of the product itself. So on the left, we're all about the outdoor wear, backpacks, umbrellas, scarves, and then look at how they soldier things according and repeating the size or the shape of something. And we read merchandised walls often like a book. So you start at the top and you go left, right, down, then left, right, left, right, left, right. And then on the right photo, we just love how this amazing display on that back wall is so well illuminated, but divided by color. They do a display at the top, and then they do the gradation of size and shape below. But it's easy to get to that walking around these wonderful displays that are all, or fixtures that are all coordinated. And again, it's by product type. It goes back to Suzanne saying by category, by department, but they all relate together. And look at how elements and principles of design are used to really create something that makes sense to the left brain, but is also exciting to the right brain.
And there, an example too of using like color stories. We merchandised a store in Chicago, and the owner had just an amazing, wild, quirky collection of things. It was nothing that sometimes didn't coordinate together, but it was just one of a kind pieces, maybe 2 or 3 at the most of objects, but a lot of one of a kinds. And so and she had this beautiful illuminated wall, and we're thinking about how do we put all these together to make it very pleasing to the eye. And we did color stories. So we would take one section of this illuminated wall and anything that was yellow or gold. And then the next section would be anything in the green families. And even though the objects were maybe a porcelain green dog and then a mid-century modern green ashtray, they might not work together as products, but when you collect them and categorize them by color, it was such a beautiful wall and so impactful, and just a very easy way to merchandise if you have a lot of eclectic different types of pieces and you can't soldier them or you can't do multiples of.
Right. And this is another example of sort of this visual chaos of not only a very busy tablecloth, which I'm not sure the rhyme or reason of using that, and then literally jam-packed, kind of like a garage sale on top. And then the one on the right, you've got vertical wood slats against the horizontal, and you've got things hanging and I mean, there's no, like, what is this? What are you trying to tell me here?
It is hard to focus on it. Like your eye kind of goes all around a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And this is an easy fix too. By, let's say we do a color story, we take that shelving unit and the only thing that we put on it are like black and white, and that's it. And you would clean that up and you would make it so pleasing and inviting just by narrowing down a theme and
maybe painting it white, painting the fixture white, and leaving breathing space. Yeah, between a fixture so that the eye has a place to rest and then can focus on another fixture. Other things that we say no are products on the floor, especially any food products, should not be merchandised on the floor. And look at, now granted, these are all wood fixtures, so that's better, but it's still a little sloppy. Like, why do we have so many fixtures? This makes it harder to shop, right? With that eclecticness.
Yeah, sometimes too many little fixtures is just too much when maybe they should be replaced by like a larger fixture that can be adjusted in heights and things like. And the baskets on the floor, that's an easy fix. Just get a riser, put it under it, and just raise that up. Nobody wants to bend over anymore.
Yeah.
Except toddlers.
They're the best customers at the knee level, right? They'll grab anything, they'll bring it in.
Right. They're the best customers.
And this is really important to note, that people can reach 7 feet. The average person can reach 7 feet when they're standing in front of a wall merchandised with products. And to Suzanne's point, people don't like to bend over. So we say, and this actually is probably more like 30 inches off the floor, but we're saying 18 inches off the floor up to 7 feet is your key power wall. That's the key area to be merchandising for customers. And then just again, think about, we have a lot of customers that have 10,000 SKUs, which are stock keeping units. These are the actual products themselves. And when you start adding thousands of SKUs to your retail environment, you need to have really good merchandising skills. And it kind of is a matter of, like, if you keep your closet really clean and organized, you probably are a good merchandiser, because it comes down to basic elements and principles of design and making something look clean and neat. So this is an example of a really good merchandising skill set that's been put to use on this floor fixture and on the walls. Also, a lot of these independents might take an old piece of furniture, which is great, and use it. But I love how they actually put light inside of this. And it's not difficult to do, because think about how you can get sometimes the LED lights to put under your kitchen cabinets. That can be done easily in a store. So if you don't have some track light to actually illuminate a particular piece of furniture, try that. But again, color stories here, we've got some green on, they're using also the doors. So we now have a second layer of being able to merchandise off of this unit.
And if you have enclosed cases like that, sometimes just by adding glass shelves so that the light can flush all the way down is helpful as well.
Yeah.
And you can always break the glass up by just cutting like small little squares of beautiful fabric or paper, just to kind of, and use that as a base for a display. Adds a little bit of interest too.
Right. And this, if you look at this, they are soldiering their jewelry on the shelves, but then they've also brought in scarves and some hats and purses, but they've done it again with good balance, symmetry, repetition of shape, and color stories.
Yeah.
So there's a fair amount of merchandise in this particular photo, but it's easy for the brain to process it.
A question came in from
Now-
Dana asking about thoughts on the use of mirrors.
Yes.
Right.
There's,
Yeah,
there's
use
nothing
them.
worse. There's nothing worse than finding a hat you like and there's nowhere to see what it looks like, what you look like on it. I'm an advocate of mirrors, especially when you have accessories and as clothing, everything. Absolutely.
Yes. And mirrors should only be really used, though, for someone to look at themselves with a product on. Or it can be a framed mirror might be a decorative accessory in the retail environment, but we don't like frames or excuse me, mirrored flat wall or mirrored too much behind like the back of this unit, because then it starts reflecting movement. It reflects people in the background. I'm trying to focus on the merchandise, but there's too much stuff that's being reflected. So be very careful on when you do put mirrors in the space, but we do love mirrors. They're used right.
And another thing, especially if you have a clothing boutique and you have your dressing rooms, make sure that the lighting and the mirrors in there are really top notch. And I am going to throw kudos out to a Banana Republic store that I used to shop at, and they had absolutely the best mirrors I've ever seen. They might have even been tilted at an angle in a way because damn, I looked so good in everything I put on. I was willing to spend pretty much my whole paycheck. But if you can like angle it a little bit to make everybody look fabulous, go for it, because when people see themselves looking good in a mirror, then you have a sale. Or two or three or
and
four.
Also one of the trends that we're going to talk about at the end here was getting mirrors that do have the lights all the way around in a rectangle in a frame where it's actually integrated as part of the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Those also have a beautiful glow. If you get them in about that 3,500 Kelvin temp again, people look good, the products look good in their true colors. So, and I think I have a portion of a picture of one coming up. One more thing on
the question right away from Carol. Carol was asking what type of lighting to use in dressing rooms. So great question and already answered there. So
yes, 3,500 Kelvin. Now, if there are also what they call tunable lights, TUNABLE, and those are lights where you could actually put those into a dressing room and you can decide, do you want more of the evening light that might be around a 2,700 that's really soft and the people look different, but that would be the evening light. And then you could go to 3,500, which would be more like the daylight. And then even 4,000, if someone does work in a environment that has like hospitals, clinics, they would be more at that 4,000. But again, the ability to have a customer change the light to see how they look in it, depending on where they're going to wear it, is also an upcoming trend.
I love that. Yeah, being able to, I'm going to wear this out versus I'm going to wear it to work. Like, what is the environment, and being able to reflect that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to touch on impulse items, because so many stores do want impulse, and they're a great revenue generator. But studies have been done, and it's shown that when impulse items are in like containers, you will sell more. So let's say on your countertop, your checkout counter, and I don't have a picture of this, I wish I did, I'll have to get one. But, you know, sometimes you have something in a basket, or you have something in an acrylic bin, or you have something on a spinner rack. That starts to, again, distract. So if you can get like containers with like signs where you could print them out, people will actually buy more. And again, it comes down to that simplicity and organization.
And I think that even goes for little point of sale merch that you get from a vendor that maybe is in its own little box, and you unfold the box and then it becomes its own holder. Even that, you don't necessarily have to use those boxes. If you've got some good containers, use the containers that you have to make a story about your store instead. And also I want to say about signage, if you're putting signage on the containers, make sure that it's consistent and clean, and not, you know, a big splotchy white card, because there's so many artistic ways you can do signage. There's so many graphic design programs out there that are pretty simple, that you can just, you know, print something up. I'm not a big fan of handwriting cards, sale cards, or price cards, unless you have like exquisite handwriting. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of Post-it notes. I'm not a fan of Scotch tape all over things. So, you know, when you elevate even the simplest like $2 item, it becomes more valuable. So the way it's presented to the customer, it means you took the time, you put the effort in, you want to make it special, and it just looks so much better.
Well, and speaking of signs, we also, I'm going to actually show a couple slides, Patrick, if that's all right, on signage.
Yeah, please.
But we also talked about putting price tags. If you do have the sticky price tags, put them on the bottom, because we want someone to interact with the product. The more in fact, you can increase sales minimum 50% by getting someone to pick something up, feel it, try it on, sniff it, smell it, eat it, whatever it is, you will increase sales. And if someone is looking to buy, let's say, a gift for someone or something for their own home, and they love it, they pick it up, and it's like, oh, this is heavier than I thought, or oh, this is well made. Then they flip it over and it says $35, and they were hoping it was $25. But most people will say, yeah, but I really love this and it feels really good. And it's subconscious. This is happening super fast. But just once you get them engaged, it will often increase the sales.
You start taking ownership once it's in your hands, right? You become
Exactly,
something. It's already mine. If I'm holding
commitment so far, so well, you just might as well go through with it.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is to really get. I would love every retailer to really get a sign design program for your store. So looking at your brand colors, your fonts, and then saying, okay, how am I going to sign all my departments or the categories of products within those departments? If a vendor is giving you a sign, what is that looking like? Or do you want them all in the same shape or size, so that one vendor isn't more than the other if they're fairly, you know, comparable in the quantity that they have on the floor? Product descriptive signs, if you're writing them up, you know, all product description signs should be pretty similar. Maybe they're little 3x5 cards, but they might be in little acrylic sign holders, and it sits near the product. And granted, you're not going to do this for a teeny tiny inexpensive product, but once you get into a product that has a little bit heftier price tag, that's where they all should be consistent. Promotional signs. If you get sign design guidelines incorporated, your regular customers, you will be training them to start looking for these signs. So new product comes in and there's a new product descriptive sign there, they're going to be like, oh, they got a new product in. A promotional sign, they say, oh, they must have a promotion going on. I recognize that sign from a distance because it's got a red outline around it and it's framed in this kind of a frame. Just typical information signs, sales signs, all of these, make sure you have always same sign holders, same font, same size, same color, all of that. And you will be surprised how much more product you'll move because customers are making sense of your signage. And to Suzanne's point, no handwriting. Look at how this devalues a store or the products in the store. And when someone handwrites something, they feel that, especially a price tag, studies have shown that the customer feels they have more chance to barter for that item because it's a handwritten sales sign. So just looking at even 3D letters, we're now printing a lot of 3D letters, and we're finishing them in paints or just stains like the kids' shoes here in different sizes. And they're so easy to move around, and put on shelves, on the walls, on nesting tables. But it really is a nice, clean way to get some information out. And then, again, being on trend with signs, QR codes have come back big time.
Yes.
Yeah, huge everywhere. People are using them to order on a menu, to find out more information about a business when they're closed. You can just immediately take a picture of a QR code and you'll go to their website. It might be to download some coupons when you're already in the store. So this is this great omni-channel retailing. At retail today, you have to be available 24/7. You're only going to be there so many hours during the day. However, customers want to be able to know about you, get information about you, maybe order something online. So that's super important. Even putting some hashtags on some words in the store. And this on the bottom right was that mirror that I was talking about that has that illumination already built in. And I think some of these are the tunable mirrors too, where you can go warm, medium, and cool in the color range of the lights. Okay, and I'm going to get out of this for a second now. Okay,
Melody had asked about suggested programs for signage. And Suzanne, you had mentioned that there's some available out there. What would you recommend?
Well, I think, the basic everyday is like a Canva program. That would be probably a real easy one to do. We use Adobe Illustrator here, but as long as you're trained in that, or if you know somebody that's trained in that, or knowing a graphic designer, or maybe finding a school that has a graphic design program that maybe a student can help you work on brand and the logo and the different types of signage templates that you could use.
Yeah, I know a lot sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I know a lot use Canva, and that has become a very big thing for retail and really all businesses. But
yeah. And we have found that most of the retailers can simply start with their brand guidelines. So whatever their logo and their Pantone colors are and the fonts that they're using, basically just sit down with a couple key staff members and say, listen, anytime we put out a sign that's in this category or it's got to describe a product, it's got to look like this. So just develop those in-house, your own guidelines in-house. And really one person should be making signs, not six. It's like who's the sign person, and that person polices those signs. And then if a promotion's over, make sure you take that sign down. Sometimes it gets so scattered, signage can become a mess, and sign pollution runs hot and heavy in this country in retail. So I think back to that, less is more, keeping it organized and simple. The left brain needs to interpret quickly. That's where signage is very important.
Jana says Canva is very user friendly and the free version is okay to start. Question coming in about 5 senses. I think this is a really good, and especially that customer psychology. So Casey's asking, what are your thoughts on customers shopping with the 5 senses? Music and scents, are those important?
Yes.
All of them. I mean, that's really how I started my career, as I was, studying consumer behavior, and my thesis was on the holistic sensory environment that we are shopping in. So, when it comes to smell, which is one of the most important and fastest hitting of all of our senses, like it immediately goes into the limbic part of our brain, which is our emotional part. And we're always trying to engage with people emotionally. So it is truly important to get the right scent. But I would say over 50% of the time, people are over scenting or putting in a fake scent or a plug-in, a Glade plug-in. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about putting in a very subtle scent that can either be seasonal or has to support your brand. You don't want your merchandise to necessarily absorb that either. And people literally can have an allergic reaction to the Glade plug-ins. So we want natural essential oils or herbs or citrus peels. And the best way to do that is in a little teeny crock pot that might cost $19. And you fill it with water in the morning, plug it in, and you put whatever herbs or essential oils that you want in it. And depending on the size of your space, maybe one is fine. Put it in, let it kind of simmer for about an hour, turn it off, do it in the afternoon. But you will find, and if people walk in and say, oh my gosh, what's that smell? It's too strong. There was a gentleman called, and I interviewed him when I was doing my thesis. He's the director of the Taste and Smell Research Institute in Chicago. And he has developed the signature scents for major department stores and the casinos and hotels. So he has created scents that keep people alert in the casinos, people that calm down in the hotel environments, and will stimulate slightly and just have a pleasant aroma in the shopping malls or department store. And he develops these scents that could be $25,000, but it's a signature scent for that particular environment.
Wow.
And that's just smell. That's just the
And
go ahead.
As a store owner too, for many years, if you're in there every day, you lose track of what the scent is. You don't smell anything anymore, or you don't hear what people are hearing because you're so used to it. So I always say you need to have a trusted advisor. So this is a really good friend. This is a sibling. This is a grown adult child that you will not take offense to whatever they tell you, and you have them come into your shop and you say, smell it, hear it, tell me what you're feeling, how it smells in here. Is there an odor? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And take that information to heart and then fix it that way, because it's very important to have an outsider come in ever so often to give you an honest opinion of how it feels to walk into your store.
And then
Absolutely.
to touch on the sense of hearing and music, no retail environment should be quiet. We always want some music, doesn't have to be loud, but it's chosen based on your brand, the products you're selling, the theme, the style of your store, and what your target market wants to hear. It is not about what your staff wants to hear. This is to be programmed as part of your brand. And if you have a different target market on Saturday mornings than you do on Tuesday nights, then make sure you alter the music, because sometimes it might be classical music for one group and jazz for another. It might be country western for your target market. But it is really important to have the right genre of music for your target market, and always have music. If it's too quiet, people feel uncomfortable shopping and almost like someone's watching them, like, oh, it's so quiet in here. What's wrong?
I have multiple playlists too for my shop, and a certain playlist for a cold and rainy day is one thing in an afternoon, and then I had a rock and wild one for like Harley Davidson weekend, or when all the bikers came in town. You're right, it depends upon the time, the date, what's happening, who you want to attract. Throw those front doors open and
and don't play radio. Because you don't want commercials. There's so many ways to get, whereas Pandora, Spotify, where you don't need to have commercials these days. And then
retail shopping. I was just going to say, retail shopping is entertainment. It is a form of entertainment. So, put on a show for your customers. You're the MC, you're the host. You have to have that personality. You have to put on the show and entertain.
And it's hospitality. And so having something to eat or drink or snack on is all part of the experience. It can be. It's not for everyone. But even if you don't want to have someone potentially spill a drink or get touched with dirty hands of a cookie or something, then wrapped mints and butter mints are like the thing these days. So instead of a little lifesaver, buy some little wrapped butter mints. You can also buy them and have your logo on them, but put them in a bowl at the checkout counter, and people will actually appreciate that.
We are coming to the top of the hour, so I do want to jump ahead. This has been amazing, but as we're looking forward, what are some trends, some bigger things that you all are seeing out in the retail landscape that that our retailers can bring in and make their stores fresh and vibrant and on trend? Uh, so
Yep.
love it.
So big and bold
Mm,
is on trend, but as is, and it's funny because there's maximalism where it's kind of a lot of patterns out there, but that's really kind of more for residential. That's not necessarily for retail. Retail would be more towards the minimalistic side, so minimalism, but bold colors, big objects, anything to attract the eye, especially in window displays. And I know there was a question in the chat about window displays. So bigger is often better, especially if you're on a busy street or you want people to attract attention from people that are on the other side of the street as they're walking down the road. But we're finding simple, big, and bold. This is a jewelry store, but it has huge windows, and they use these huge sails in the summer that are bright. Again, look at elements and principles of design. So from a distance, you really be able to see these colorful sails, plus they branded them. And at eye level for the pedestrian traffic, you have merchandise that they can actually look at as they walk by. Vinyl continues to be on trend, believe it or not, and it's how you use vinyl. So on the left here, they took paint and then actually incorporated vinyl onto that window. So it's such a simple tool to use because you can print anything on vinyl these days, whether it's vinyl wall covering or vinyl on the window, on the glass. It can be so customizable now, and you can get reusable vinyl, one-time vinyl, exterior vinyl. I love this one that says yes. They literally took their Kessler's ribbon that they put around their packaging, and they put it all across the huge set of windows because they were set really far back from the road and they needed to attract attention. And a lighter color is always going to pop on a window. Some people this is in New York on the left. I love this idea, how they took vinyl on the window and then brought it into the store, up the wall, over the ceiling, put it on their display platforms even. Vinyl on the right took a big window and enclosed it so that this particular merchant only had to put a couple things in that window instead of having to try and fill an entire window. Anthropologie has really put this on the map as far as multiples of one item. It's still on trend. It has been for about a decade, and it continues to be very, very popular. So you take one item and you do hundreds of them. Also, history, telling the story, if you're local, obviously, most of these people that were on this presentation, it's all about your story. How did you start? Why are you doing what you're doing? Is there history involved? Sure, Allen Edmonds is a huge company, but they didn't even have their history timeline in their stores until we point out to them that they have 100+ years history and every shoe gets touched 212 times. Those are little facts, big facts, I think, that everyone should know. So what is it about you or the history of your family or the fact that you were a nurse and now you're not? You decided to open up retail because you had this talent in XYZ. Talk about yourself. People want to support a story, an engaging story. History timeline on the right, and this is a map on the left of all of the farms that used to provide milk to the cheese factories in Wisconsin over a 200-year period. And then of those, the ones that are still providing milk to the cheese factories.
That's fun.
So yeah, people love that sort of thing. Oh, and just a last, before I get out of the slides, but these are two checkout counters because I always say the checkout counter is the last of that experience, the last impression. Please don't have them look like this. This goes back to that chaos. This is on trend. We've got trendy materials. So this kind of beehive tile shape, and then the shiny subway tile in the back, dropped pendant lights, 3. We like odd numbers, very trendy. Mixing floors, just this whole on-trend design with that minimalism, the white, the wood floor, very on trend. and making sure that all of your colors, brands, logo, and messaging, taglines are all on your packaging. Make sure that they're the types of packaging that will reflect the value of your merchandise. And finally, that omni-channel retailing, you said, that's still a trend. People have to go back and see you online. We want that to be a continuous circle. Brick and mortar, online. Brick and mortar, online. They are integrated and married.
And it's always nice to have a message for customers who are walking out the door when they're leaving, is, like a simple thank you or just a note of appreciation, especially for small business owners. You have to go that extra step to make them feel comfortable and want to come back and support you.
There was a question that came in. First off, window displays, I think is, its own topic in itself, right? So we can maybe have another as we talk about window displays, but windows that get a lot of sunshine reflection. What can you do in order to make those be seen better by pedestrians or people that are passing by in their car?
I just answered that in the chat.
All right.
Yeah, really super high lumen output light bulbs in the track, because again, we have to counteract glare and what's going on outside. So I would almost say, you want like 2,500 lumens in each of those light bulbs. And then the light colored vinyl that we just talked about and we just showed, because that's pops on the glass. And we also talk about layering. So have some vinyl on the glass. Then you have your 3-dimensional displays that are well illuminated, and then a bright backdrop. All of those things will help your displays pop when you have glare or, sun trying to come in and bleach all of your merchandise.
And to think too about the product that you're putting in the window, especially if you have clothing on mannequins, dark black, black jackets, black suits, black pants, dark colors, they're not going to be visible. And the only way that those are going to pop is if you do some sort of light colored background, a panel, a board of some sort, a really bright solid colored curtain, so that they stand out. So be careful about the dark colors of the merchandise that you put in the window.
There was a question earlier. Retail stores versus antique stores. Any different recommendations that you would have for an antique store than that would be different from a retail store?
Well, antique stores, most of the cases they're going to be one-of-a-kind pieces, and that was kind of what my store was all about. I had a lot of very unique one-of-a-kinds, and so I really needed to delve into the history of each of the pieces and educate people on what this was all about and why this costs this much money and why are these doors functioning this way. And I think in antique stores, it's much more of an educational process on the product, and you have to engage more with your customers. You also have to have information available. Maybe it's on the tag of the particular piece, and it gives a history about it and why it's done this way.
Yeah, great recommendations. We are coming in. We try to leave some time for Q&A, but people were asking as we went along, which is amazing. Thank you all for being so participatory. I know we're running a little bit over, so Lynn, it looks like we have some offerings for those that are watching.
Yes, do you see that? This is a discount code so Specialty Store Services is one of the many catalogs that is online. Typical things that you can get: some mannequins, pedestals, nesting tables, slat walls, accessories, risers, store sign holders, things of that nature. Similar to Retail Resource, Firefly Store Solutions. But this particular company has reached out to us and is giving discounts for the next 2 weeks to groups that we talk to. So go ahead and it's RM25 RWRK.
Wonderful. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, or we can make sure to get that information out to you all. That's a fantastic resource. Thank you for being able to provide that.
Sure. Yeah.
Lynn, Suzanne, thank you both so much for being on today. This was amazing. So much great information. Getting a lot of thank yous coming in and hearts. I love the little emoji
Yeah,
hearts.
I love that. I love that. Little hearts
Yeah, they kind of float up there.
Aw.
Oh, now we're getting
Gosh.
But
That's
thank
why we
you
love
so
the
much.
indies. They're so great. We love them.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Come talk to our audience. Again, this has been fantastic. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Patrick. And we'd love to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Well, we'll. I mean, I think a window display one is necessary.
Yeah.
So
We have plenty of visuals.
Good. I know you guys have. You have so many. You've been working with so many companies and so many retail stores. You have a ton of visuals. So. All right, that was my conversation with Lynn Falk and Suzanne Rothenstein of Retailworks, Inc. If you liked this conversation or any other webinar that we've done, please consider making a donation to Heart on Main Street through our website, heartonmainstreet.org. All proceeds go to helping independent retailers that have been affected by natural disasters, to help them rebuild their stores and remain a part of their community. We truly are funded by viewers and listeners like you, so your donations do matter. Our next webinar will actually be next week on March 12th. We have a longtime friend, Crystal Vilkaitis, will be joining us to talk about Rooted in Retail, which is her rebranded Crystal Media, offering a lot more things to retailers and helping out retailers in a variety of different ways. So we'll be discussing that, the change, the motivation to change, rebranding and what that means and how a different company or a retailer can do that. Very, very excited for this conversation. Always love talking with Crystal. You can register for that webinar or several other webinars that we have coming up in the future, or watch any other webinar that we've ever done through our website, heartonmainstreet.org. Thank you so much for joining me today on Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone that loves small businesses as much as you do. Until next time, keep supporting your local retailers and keep your heart on Main Street. See you next week. This episode was written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Kaiser, with a very special thanks to Lynn Falk and Suzanne Rothenstein of Retailworks, Inc. For more information about Heart on Main Street, you can visit heartonmainstreet.org. Thank you.